The Exorcist is one of the most important, not just horror, but films to me in history for the profound impact that that movie had on the landscape. I think even if The Exorcist came out today, it would still be just as profound if it was like the first of its kind, I guess. But the sequels have kind of a muddied history, some great, some not so great. Now, David Gordon Green, who hot off the heels of the Halloween trilogy, is back with a sequel to the first movie, or a requel, I guess you could call it. So anyway, let's review The Exorcist Believer. The Exorcist Believer stars Leslie Odom Jr., Ellen Burstyn, Olivia O'Neill, Lydia Jewett, and is directed by David Gordon Green. What's up, guys? Welcome to a full spoiler-free review of The Exorcist Believer. David Gordon Green, he just finished up the Halloween trilogy. I'd say to a mixed response. I actually really like the trilogy. I think David Gordon Green is a very talented director. I mean, and he does great TV. He's done comedies with like Pineapple Express. People don't really talk about the versatility of David Gordon Green. So going into a movie like The Exorcist, it could go either way, really. It could go either way. So anyway, looking forward to diving into this. Let's start you off with a quick plot synopsis. Basically, The Exorcist Believer it's around two families. One is a Christian family. The other one, I believe it's more of like an atheist type point of view. Or it doesn't flat out say that he's atheist, but he's just not, well, I guess, a believer. And his child is Angela. He's a single father. They tell you why at the very beginning of the movie. And also, the Christian family, it's a mother, father, I guess your traditional family, right? So these two girls, they go into the woods together and then they don't come out for 3 days. And when they come out, if you've seen the original Exorcist, you know the progression of Regan in that movie. And it's pretty similar here, okay? So we all know, if we're fans of The Exorcist, that the demons start coming out, havoc ensues, and we got to figure out how to hopefully exorcise these young girls. Now, also, I think I must mention that Ellen Burstyn, in all the marketing, you've seen her, and you know that she plays a big part in this. She comes out to help these two young girls. She wrote this book, and so eventually that leads her to this particular story. She talks a little bit about, what she went through with Regan. I'm not going to go into any like specifics, but it is nice that there is that connective thread, because before she enters the frame, this definitely feels like its own thing. And I think the best sequels, there's something, at least in the direction, that kind of makes them feel like they belong to the previous movies, right? You don't have to have the same director, but I do think you need to kind of honor what was done before a little bit. Yes, make it your own, but I guess jumping into the cons, this one really doesn't feel like what William Friedkin did. I think William Friedkin, especially after watching this movie, it really made me realize how much of a master filmmaker he was. Sure, he used some unorthodox methods to get his performances, but at the end of the day, it's The Exorcist, and that's all part of the clay that made up this remarkable piece of cinema. It's beautifully directed. It's a patient film. He didn't direct it like a horror film. He wanted to really make this just a character study of this child that is possessed by the devil and how that all plays out. And it is scary on its own because of really the performances. How William Friedkin and the crew, they were able to put together the demonic Regan, and just it's kind of a marriage of different sources to make this character just one of the most iconic and scariest characters of all time. We're not here to talk about the first Exorcist. By the way, I've reviewed Exorcist and Exorcist 3, pretty detailed reviews. Definitely check them out. But Exorcist Believer, it tries to scare you, and it fails, okay? I will say, I think the exorcism scenes, just the scenes where the girls are fully possessed, those are the least scary in the movie, and they're trying to be the most scary. There are moments, I guess, early in the movie when the possession starts taking hold. To me, that's the scariest stuff. Just little, almost like subliminal type things that happen. Definitely some scares there, but that's right at the beginning of the movie, you know? Or I guess, to be fair, I'll say like first quarter of the movie. But once they're like full on demoned out, it's not scary at all. And really, I was a little bit kind of excited and nervous going into this movie. This is an Exorcist movie. David Gordon Green, he had some scary stuff, I guess, in his Halloween trilogy. So I was thinking, am I going to be like scared out of my mind watching this movie? And then when I left, I was just like, that wasn't scary at all. It was trying to be scary, and maybe that's the thing. When you try, you are more than likely going to fail. Whereas if you are just more natural about the story itself, the story is scary. If it's well directed, it will present itself that way. I think a big problem with this movie is the direction and the editing especially. And if you've watched a lot of David Gordon Green's movies, you know what I'm talking about. He is very quick with his transitions. He likes to use sound design to kind of surprise you. And sometimes it works, but sometimes it kind of gets in the way of the story, depending on the story that you're telling. And this particular story, The Exorcist, if you look at the way Exorcist 1 and Exorcist 3 were directed, the camera kind of sits back and lets the story and the characters unfold. Whereas this one, it felt like there was a cut like every 2-3 seconds. It was a little jarring, but more importantly, it just kind of gets in the way of the story. Talented editor. But at the end of the day, I'm not looking to be dazzled by editing when I'm watching an Exorcist movie. Now, the two young girls, Angela and Catherine, these two young actresses, I think they do a pretty decent job. I think the standout scene in this movie is in the church, the body and the blood scene. That's right there in the trailer. And I think that one probably has the most impact. I think the father, Victor, played by Leslie Odom Jr., he is kind of the main character outside of the two young girls in this movie. You know, I thought it might be a 50-50 type thing with both families. But no, he definitely is front and center. And I'm not complaining about that at all. I think he's a really fine actor, and I think he does a good job in this movie. He's not a problem at all. As a matter of fact, I think he's probably the best part of this movie. So if I have to give it credit, I'll definitely give him mad props. Now, the Christian family of the young girl, Catherine, not too much to write home about. They almost were played as laughable in certain scenes. They were really aggressive. And, you know, as any family would be when their child goes missing. But I felt like the movie was portraying them more on, I guess, the buffoon side of things. Almost comedic sometimes, you know. Whereas it was much more serious concerning Victor and Angela. But really, at the end of the day, guys, I felt like this movie was just a mixed bag. I felt like it was trying way too hard to be scary. And it's not really that memorable. And I don't feel like I'm going to watch the movie that often again. You know, it just doesn't have high replay value for me. It doesn't even feel to me like a worthy companion to the original Exorcist, because in this timeline, the original is the only one that exists, I believe. And the two movies couldn't feel farther away in terms of quality. Honestly, I think if they would have scrapped the Exorcist title and made this kind of like a kidnapping type movie, you know, obviously you're thinking of like Prisoners because the two children go missing. That part was kind of gripping, and you didn't really need the exorcism part of it. But this was an Exorcist movie, and that part of the movie is only a small portion because we all know that they end up being found, and then, you know, they become demons. Also, one last thing, and God, I hate to shit on this movie like crazy, but the notion here was that it might not just be one religion, you know, because this is a town made up of different religions. I touched on that at the beginning. You had a Christian family, you had a family that might be more atheist, but then you had other religions too in here. And without going into any spoilers, I think they were trying to maybe combine it all and make it kind of a kumbaya type thing. And I think the thing that worked about the first movie was it was just much more focused. And not to say that the Christian religion is what should be used in every Exorcist movie. When you're trying to put all these different religions together, they almost cancel each other out. And you kind of lose focus on it. So that was another problem with the movie. So yeah, at the end of the day, God, I can't believe this. I'm giving this a 2 hours lost. Some decent performances, I'll give it that. But, as an Exorcist movie, no, not a chance. So let me know down in the comments. I hope you guys dig this movie. But I'm not feeling good about it. And I'm not feeling good about the $400 million they spent for the Exorcist franchise. It might have just went right down the toilet. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free Fridays. Follow me at Drumdums on my socials. Support me on Patreon. Buy me a coffee. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And Drumdum out.